Good evening, councillors and staff. We'll declare the adjourned council meeting, special meeting open. I'll read the disclaimer. The City of Swan disclaims any liability or loss arising from any person or body relying on any statement, discussion, recommendation or decision made during this meeting. Where an application for an approval, a licence or the like is considered or determined during this meeting, the City warns that neither the applicant nor any other person or body shall rely upon that discussion or determination until written notice of either an approval and the conditions which relate to it or the refusal of the application has been issued by the City. Conditions of entry: no electronic, visual or audio recording or transmitting device or instrument is permitted to be used. A person who breaches this provision of the City of Swan Meeting Procedures Local Law 2015 will be required to immediately leave the premises. Attendance and apologies. I still have an apology for Councillor Podovnik. Are there any others?
Councillor Richardson's not in the room, Mr Mayor.
No, there's Councillor Scanlon. I assume they are running late. Declarations of financial and proximity interests and interests affecting impartiality were dealt with last week. Are there any others?
No, Mr Mayor.
None received. Public question times and deputations also dealt with, as were members' questions. Councillors, given that we have a guest, and I informed you that we'll go straight to Councillor Coley's motion, which is number 8.2, I believe, which is 8.2, a motion on 341 Park Street, Brabham. Councillor Coley. Dismiss.
Mayor, are we having the deputation initially or just straight to the motion?
Yeah, straight to the motion. She did deputation on this last week.
Correct.
She's got something for the other one later.
I think I'll have to wait till it comes up on the screen before I can read it out.
Okay. Oh, she's joined us. Should be in the documents.
On the screen now.
Page 11. It's on the screen now.
It's on the screen now.
Read it off the board if that's okay, Mayor.
Yep.
Councillors, my motion is in relation to 341 Park Street, Brabham, and that is one, that the acoustic management plan, as well as, if I could add in, I did foreshadow that I would add in the traffic management plan for the proposed childcare centre at 341 Park Street, Brabham is presented to Council for consideration prior to approval of a demolition permit and a building permit. The reasons for the motion are: one, because the significant concern for neighbours adjoining the proposed childcare centre relates predominantly to noise, and two, it is an appropriate issue for Council to consider, given it has the potential to detrimentally affect a ratepayer's right to peaceful enjoyment of their property.
Councillor Connolly, would I suggest after noise you put and traffic? If that's a concern you're asking for the traffic report, you probably need to put that in there if it's a concern.
Traffic.
Predominantly noise and traffic?
Noise and traffic,
Yeah.
correct. Thank you for the reasons.
In the reasons?
In the reason, yeah.
In the reasons? In the reasons?
Noise and traffic.
Yeah, noise.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do I have a seconder? I do. Councillor Catalano. Is there anyone against? There's no one against. Declare that carried. Oh, sorry, Joe. Sorry, Councillor Lucas. Now that takes us back to item 8.1, which is Councillor Johnson, and it is part 2. Councillor Johnson.
I don't know where this is. Where is actually
We're back
this?
now
is
to
in,
page
back
6,
in page
motion
6?
8.1.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Mr Mayor, this is slightly different to what we agreed, so it's a bit of a challenge here. Councillors, my motion is the Council, this is number 2, 8.12, the Council resolved to resume agenda forums following the approved City of Swan agenda forum guidelines. Oh, there it is. The reason for the motion is that the purpose of an agenda forum is for the public to give deputations about the agenda and for the Council to ask questions of the deputies, and there is no reason to restrict agenda forums other than as restricted by the State Government Emergency Gathering Direction number 5.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Okay, I have a seconder in Councillor Catalano. Councillor Congerton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Part of the motion at the beginning says the Council resolved to resume agenda forums there's no time frame attached to that. No time.
Means immediately. Doesn't say immediately, it means immediately. I think that's its meaning actually, so I don't mind either way.
Just, Ms Albright, can you clarify that if we immediately, do we have to advertise prior to any change?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we do need to put up notice on our website of our agenda forums, but given that we're having an agenda forum now, we've got time before the next one.
Okay, thank you. No other questions? Councillor Kylie, you had your hand up. You all right? Okay. Good. Okay, is there anyone against? There is. Is anyone else against? Do you wish to debate it, Councillor Congdon? If you're no one against, I'll put that straight to the vote. Those in
Mr
favour?
Mayor, I do wish to speak to it, if you don't mind. So it's actually quite an important issue, this.
Councillor, I'll go back to our standing orders and procedures. We've debated this before, that if the opposing member doesn't wish to debate it, the presiding member puts it straight to the vote. So those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against? Is the remainder. Thank you. The motion is lost. That takes us now to 3. Councillor Johnson again.
Yeah, Mr Mayor. Motion 3 is to move council meetings and agenda forums back to a 4-hour indicative meeting length and adjournment of meetings to be moved and seconded by councillors. The reason for this motion is that CEO has not provided any valid reason for limiting council meetings to 2 hours. The state government moved to phase 4 on the 27th of June and the only gathering limit is the 1 person per 2 square metre rule.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Councillor Catalano. Is there anyone against? Okay, is there anyone else against the motion? Do you wish to debate it, councillors? Okay, the motion, those in favour?
Well, I do want to vote it, want to debate it, Mr Mayor.
I've already discussed that, councillor. That's the standing orders.
Well, Mr Mayor, I would like to debate this one. I think it's actually quite important to our city to have an understanding of what's going on.
Councillor, refer back to our standing orders and it's there. So, and Councillor Colley has already voted. So those in favour?
So,
4. The remainder against. The motion is lost. Takes us now to item 4. Councillor Johnson.
is there any point doing it, Mr Mayor? Look, councillors, this is a serious matter. And if we're not going to have any debate, that's fine by me. My motion is to commence agenda forums and council meetings at 6 p.m. for the reason that 6 p.m. was the start time before declaration of the state of emergency, and the 6 p.m. start time was set to make it easier for the public to attend meetings.
We have a seconder? Councillor Kiley. Is anyone against? There is. Do we just debate it, councillors?
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
Yes. What's your point of order?
I'm sorry, Mr Mayor, just in regards to the protocol and the legislative requirements around our standing orders with if nobody wishes to debate it. The precedent has been set by councillors at times to go against the motion in order for it to be debated and then to change their mind, which still shows either a lack of understanding or respect for our standing orders.
Is it a point of order? Okay, I'll note that, councillor. At this point in time, we'll move.
Point of order? Actually, that's just assuming that that's the case, but I'd like to listen to the debate.
What's your point of order?
My point of order is that that's basically suggesting that there's people in the chamber, there's councillors in the chamber who haven't got respect for the standing orders.
Yep, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt on that one. So we have a mover and a second that wish to be debated. I would have thought it would have gone to the vote, given there wasn't too many councillors against it. Might get up. But if that's the case, Councillor Johnson.
Okay. Well, Mr Mayor, for those councillors who weren't aware of this, we moved council meetings from a 5:30 start time to a 6 p.m. start time. I think it was in May 2019. That was after a fairly lengthy community campaign to get these meetings moved from 5:30 to 6 p.m. There's a fairly simple reason for that. In order to, for two reasons: one, to encourage and make it easier for the public to participate, and secondly, to broaden out the possibility of council candidates at elections to a broader group, especially those who are working full time. Now, I'll take the second point because I think that's relatively important, and it's as evidenced by the people in the councillors in this chamber. If we look at those councillors who are working full time, I think there's myself, there's Councillor Richardson, there is Councillor Parry, and I think Councillor Prodovnik, and possibly also to some extent Councillor Catalano. What do all these councillors have in common? Well, Mr Mayor, Councillor Richardson works in Midland, Councillor Catalano works in Midland, Councillor Bryce Parry works in South Guildford, Councillor Prodovnik works in Midland. I work in the city of Perth, but it is relatively easy for me to get to the council chamber because I come by train. It is my usual commute. I live in Guildford, so it's all relatively nearby. Councillors, the start time of meetings is a major deterrent to councillors, candidates considering putting up their hands to be a councillor. And actually, that is one of the reasons why we need to move this back to 6 p.m. because there is an election coming up next year, and we need to make it clear to people that 6 p.m. is the start time. Secondly, going back to the first point, many members of our community are quite surprised to find that the meeting time was 5:30. Many people don't finish work, that is, if they're a 9-to-5 worker, until about 5:30. So unless they live somewhere close to the council chamber and are quite well organised, they're unlikely to ever make it into the public gallery to make a deputation, make a public statement, or to ask a question. Councillors' long campaign, it was even brought up in a special electors meeting on a different subject. Please can we move our council meetings to 6 p.m. So as part of a compromise, when we agreed that the indicative meeting length would be approximately 4 hours, we decided that meetings would begin at 6 p.m. and they would finish at 10 p.m. And the reason was, councillors, was that it was felt that a 4-hour meeting time was a reasonable amount of time. Because most of our meetings actually finish well within 4 hours. So, councillors, in 2017-2018, 11 of our meetings, of our 13 meetings, were less than 4 hours in duration. In 2018-19, 7 of our meetings were less than 4 hours in duration, and 3 of them were more than 4 hours in duration. What we have found, councillors, is that 4 hours is the most likely time to set as indicative time for us to complete our meetings within the allotted time frame. Now, councillors, if we move our meeting, if we keep our meeting times at 5:30, we've already established that the closing time for meetings is 10 o'clock. We've actually got 4.5 hours for our meetings. So, councillors, I think as we're well aware, the current position is that there is no reason to limit meetings to 4 hours, to 2 hours. There's no reason why they cannot continue from 5:30 to 6 p.m. if we keep the time at 5:30. And the reason for that, councillors, is simply this. There is no environmental health officer report, professional person with qualifications in disease control, advising us that our meetings should be limited to 2 hours. Nothing at all. There's nothing in the Department of Health guidelines that limits meetings to 2 hours. There's nothing in the closure and restriction directions that limits our meetings to 2 hours.
Point of order, please, Mr Mayor.
Oh, I wondered how long it would take.
Just 1 second. What's your point of order?
I'm sorry, Councillor. I'm entitled to call a point of order, whether you like it or you don't like it,
Okay.
without
Can I
the
hear
side
point of
commentary.
order,
Thank you.
Councillor, please? Can I hear point of order?
I thought we were talking about moving the meeting from 5:30 to 6 o'clock and not talking about the 2-hour time frames.
That's what I believed was. So, if you continue to talk about 6 o'clock, Councillor Johnson.
Yes, absolutely right, Councillor.
And
Thank
you're
you,
1
Mr
minute
Mayor,
left too,
and
by
thank
the
you
way.
for that correction. So, councillors, the 6 o'clock start time was set as a result of public participation, consultation with the community. Motions moved at special electors meetings. I think motions also moved at the annual meeting of electors. That's why we selected a 6 p.m. start time. Councillors, moving it to 5:30 does not have any bearing whatsoever on either the economic emergency or the pandemic. It is not going to cure the virus, nor is it going to put money back in people's pockets. Councillors, people still want to come to our meetings, and we should have the meetings at 6 p.m. because, as determined by proper community consultation, that is the correct time to start them. So, councillors, I don't think I need to say any more than that. Please support moving these meetings back to their proper start time of 6 p.m, as decided back in May 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That's spot on 5 minutes. Councillor Cole, you're the seconder.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Councillor Johnson's thoroughly covered the issue, and I'll be supporting the motion.
Okay. I have a question. Can I ask our Health Officer, David Rosling, just to make some comments on some stuff there that was talked about, Dave, in terms of recommendations to the Department of Health as our...
Yep, through you, Mr Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, councillors. Look, the public health comment doesn't really have anything to say about the start time. So if I'm just talking to the start time, then there really is no comment. So I guess that's a bit unclear to me, I have to say. So I'll look for guidance from
I appreciate
the
that,
CEO.
Mr Rosling. The comment was made in regards to meeting times. I think you want to address that while the opportunity presents itself.
Okay, so meeting durations.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. We're debating meeting start times, not meeting durations, as has been pointed out by Councillor Congdon. So,
yep.
I don't think that we should be discussing it. It's not relevant.
Well, that's your true counsel, but you did raise it during debate, even though you're called to order, and I think it's opportune time for Mr Rosling to make a comment while it's fresh in our mind. Thank you, Mr Rosling.
Okay, so that's correct. There is no limit of 2 hours duration for meetings in any of the directions or in any of the sort of information. But what does arise, and this is the advice and the discussion between myself and Amanda, is that there's a consequence to going beyond 2 hours. And that consequence is that people who are in this shared space for more than 2 hours become defined as a close contact, and that is in reference to regulation. And the consequence of that is that if for example, we're in here for 2 hours or more than 2 hours, and I come down with COVID and I'm tested positive, everyone who's in that space more than 2 hours becomes defined as a close contact, and it is the judgment of the public health officer from the state health department who is reviewing the case to determine whether everyone then needs to self-isolate. And that the directions or the series of national guidelines suggests that everyone would need to self-isolate. Now, whether they would make a decision on who was sitting closer to me, for example, or not, is another question, and that would be the judgment of that person at that time.
Thank you, Mr Rosling. Councillor Richard, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just in reference to that point of after that 2 hour period, if you were to leave here and go home and find that you had symptoms of COVID, you would then need to present somewhere to be tested, and being Midland is the closest depending on where you live, you as a general member of the public would be a minimum of 48 hours on a return for that COVID sample. If it was a medical staff member, such as myself, it would be a minimum turnaround of 24 hours. So therefore, if we came back, you wouldn't get those results back and we'd be back here on Wednesday night. So you're actually making it difficult by being in the same place twice in the same week. So by being in the same space for one period of time versus two, then defeats the purpose.
Okay, well, what's the question? Was the statement? Okay. Thank you, Mr Rosling. Councillor Catalano, you speaker against the motion.
Yes, thank you. Well, I oppose this for two reasons. Firstly, if I remember rightly, I did actually oppose the 6 o'clock start time initially. But secondly, I opposed it because I don't think that the standing orders should be used to stifle debate in this chamber, and that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing somebody who wants to actually present a motion and actually speak to that motion, and that's what we want to hear. We want to hear what the reasons are and the debate and the arguments for motions put forward. And to use the standing orders to stifle that is actually something I don't agree with. Yep. Thank you.
I'm going to call you order too, Councillor. because we're speaking here about the start time at 6 o'clock. So if you wish to continue, I'd like to debate against the start time at 6 o'clock, not the other preamble you've got. Thank you.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you. Any speakers for the motion? Any other speakers against the motion? Councillor Lucas.
Just briefly, thank you, Mr Mayor. And a lot was said, and I'd already written down what Councillor Congan had said before he put in his point of order. This motion talks about the start times. I think it's important to realise that part of the rationale, from my memory, is why we went to a 5:30 start time, is because previously when we had the 6 o'clock time, we had a meal provided between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Once we decided that we would no longer have meals during the state of emergency, it freed up the time, because the staff normally work, I'll say 9 to 5, but a lot of them are in their offices earlier. If they have to then stay around on a meeting night till 6 p.m, and we were conscious of that. So I think the 6 p.m. start time can come back in once the normal state of affairs come back in. I'd support that. But during the state of emergency and the current operating procedures, I'm quite happy with the 5:30 start time. We meet for 2 hours. I'm usually home just before 8 o'clock. I have my evening meal then because I don't have time to have it before I come to the meeting. So I don't support the reintroduction of the 6 p.m. start time at this particular point in time. Once we're a bit further down the track and more restrictions are eased, then I'd support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. Any speaker for the motion? Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And just a little note that I see your microphone's still on from when the other councillor was speaking.
My microphone stays on, Councillor.
Oh, I just wanted to let you know that we could hear comments that you were making to the CEO, that's all, through the system.
Okay, that's fine. Keep going.
Thank you. Anyway, sorry, back to my comment. Sorry about that aside. I just wanted to say that I support this motion wholeheartedly, and I would like to move the meetings back to 6 p.m. for a few reasons. One is continuation of council meetings for the community. They know what time we're starting. They know they can come in at 6 p.m. Councillor Johnson's quite right that it's difficult for people to get here at 5:30. People generally can get here for 6 p.m. Now, I was late tonight. I wasn't coming from work, but my husband was. So it's a barrier for me as a mother of young children. And this isn't about me, but it's about future candidates for council. It may prevent people wanting to nominate for council if they think, oh goodness, this is going to disturb, family life. I've got to get someone to look after the kids before my husband or wife gets home. So just another factor to consider is who may nominate for council for this change to 5:30, making it difficult to attend council. So continuation for the community being able to attend meetings, continuing for councillors to be able to attend meetings. I think this is a really important thing to go back to 6 p.m. so that we can go back to ordinary business. Thank you.
Any other speakers for or against the motion? Councillor McNamara speaking.
Against, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
I just want to comment on Councillor Johnson's remarks with regard to those people who may want to nominate. I want to remind Councillor Johnson that it was 5:30 when he nominated. And it was also 5:30 when a lot of other people nominated. So it didn't stop the success of Councillor Johnson or Councillor Kiley or Councillor... Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, the story is it's totally irrelevant from the point of view of nominations. People of all ages and all sizes and all religious beliefs attend and are nominated and are successful in this area, in this particular chamber. Mr. Mayor, the issue is not 5:30 or 6:30. It is just as the emails that have been running here and there to the CEO about this 2 hours and 4 hour situation. It is just an opportunity for people to have a hassle and to change. Change the way things happen. Change the culture. a culture change, Mr. Kiley, or Councillor Kiley, my apologies. So that's basically what this is all about. It's about nothing else, only why people want a change and why people do not agree with what went on in the past. They need to change it for their own reasons, and I really don't mind what the reasons are. They're entitled to ask the question, and I have no problem giving an answer. I don't believe in it, and I don't agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNamara. Yeah, speakers? We know the speakers. Councillor Johnson, you close the debate, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to address the issue of what the staff do between finishing work and coming to a council meeting if it's at 6 p.m. Well, councillors, we have to consider who we're putting first. Are we putting the public first or are we putting the staff first? So, as I think we discussed at the last meeting, we're here to represent the interests of the electors, residents and ratepayers, some of whom may well be members of staff. But I think it is the public and the public gallery that come first. We heard from Mr. Rosling that I think the WA Public Health Officer is the one who decides whether people need to self-isolate. So it is not automatic, if we're here for 2 hours, that we need to self-isolate. It is decided outside of this chamber by the state government. And as Mr. Rosling said, it is likely to be people in the immediate vicinity of the person who is determined to have COVID or SARS-CoV-D, SARS-CoV virus, as I've now heard it called. Councillors, I think you're well aware that we're in a very fortunate position here in WA compared to New South Wales and Victoria, in that, to the best of my knowledge, there is no virus here. So therefore, the risk is so extraordinarily low that this start time makes no sense. And if I can just address what other people have spoken about, the 2-hour limit makes no sense either, because it's not supported by any state documents at all.
Point of order,
it has been addressed that...
Point of order, Mr Mayor. That's incorrect. Department of Health clearly states 2-hour meetings. Thank you.
No, where's that? That's not true.
Carry on, Councillor Johnson.
Yep. Okay, Councillor Parry can read the document here. He's got a copy of it. Nothing in there about 2 hours. Nothing in there about 2 hours. You've heard Mr. Rosling explain that there's no 2-hour limit. So I think we need to be quite careful what we do in here, councillors, because no one else has got a 2-hour limit. Now let's get back to the subject of start times. Councillor Congerton pointed out that it was 5:30 when I nominated, and it didn't stop me. Well, Councillor McNamara, sorry, thank you for that.
Councillors. Councillor John, you're burning time.
Well, I'm not burning time, Mr. Mayor. So it was 5:30, and I can tell you when I found myself elected, I thought, what am I going to tell my employer? I'm going to have to leave work at 4:30. Councillor, it is actually a serious issue. And for me to start leaving work at 4:30 after years of working till 6, I tell you, I was quite nervous, but nobody seemed to care. So it wasn't an issue for me. But for many people, it is. Is it change for change's sake? Well, no, actually, I think changing it from 6 to 5:30 for no what I regard as rational reason is change for change's sake. We're just merely trying to move it back. So, councillors, please support this very sensible change to restore the 6 p.m. meeting time, because, of course, we're pretty much back to normal here in WA, and we need to start following the guidance, following what we're seeing in the rest of the community, and coming back to normal. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Now put the vote. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against? The balance. Motion is lost. Councillor, that takes now to your item 5.
I think I should withdraw, Mr. Mayor, as it's not relevant.
Right, so that's withdrawn. Okay, councillors, that takes care of every item on the agenda. Now close the special meeting. We resume back here for the continuation of the agenda forum at 6:30 as advertised. Thank you, councillors.